The darkest of America's regular tragedies has returned, a school shooting, and it occurred on the very first week of classes after the summer holidays. This time the attack was on a Roman Catholic primary school in Minneapolis, the perpetrator firing through a window as the young pupils prayed in the adjacent church.
My mom was waiting outside of the church when it happened. I was scared that I wasn't going to see her because I didn't know what was happening, really. I was just in shock.
For parents, this is the nightmare that has stalked American schools for years.
Yeah, so she called me hysterical, and the first thing she said is, "Mom, I'm safe, but something really bad is happening," and that's the worst call to get as a parent.
The police chief outlined the harrowing details.
During the mass, a gunman approached on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the mass. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible.
The attacker is believed to be Robin Westman, 23 years old and a former pupil at the school, leaving online a trail of deeply disturbing videos, including a manifesto of bitterness against the world. There was a detailed sketch of the church and its pews, indicating the extent of the planning. And the assailant showed off the ammunition and the weaponry that was to be used, some of it indicating that a presidential assassination attempt might also have been a possibility. Police say all the guns were purchased legally. As political figures, including the president, offered condolences and sympathy, and with the White House flag flying at half-staff, the city's mayor dismissed those messages as meaningless.
Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance.
This is an attack that will frighten parents across America, as other school communities wonder if they too will one day have to endure a similar horror.
And Robert joins us now. Robert, this is obviously unfolding horror tonight. What's the latest?
Well, the latest is that death toll remains at 2, that 8-year-old and that 10-year-old pupil. 17 others were injured, 14 or 15 of those were children. Thankfully, they are all expected to survive. Tonight, the FBI Director Kash Patel has said this will be investigated as an act of domestic terrorism. He went on to say this will also be investigated as a hate crime against Catholics. Of course, in recent years, certainly since the 2012 a massacre at Sandy Hook in Connecticut, at that primary school, there have been many mass shootings at schools, at colleges, at places of worship. And always, Tom, the same debate rages, how to fortify schools. Are there sufficient mental health resources? Should teachers be armed? That's always a fraught debate like this. And whether online media companies are doing enough to identify threats, like in this case, that is certain to be a major argument. One thing that is off the political agenda, particularly with this White House, with this Congress, and in this political climate, one thing that is off the agenda is all talk about gun control.
OK, Robert, thank you very much indeed. And Rohit is here to talk about all this. Sadly, always here when we have these attacks of various kinds. So this, I think it's fair to say, this is a very confusing picture tonight. It's been reported by the New York Times that the assailant was a trans person, but at the same time there were slogans, racist, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBT slogans. So, at the moment, we're all trying to make sense of that. The basic truth is we don't seem to have any clear motivation at all. Is that fair? And how does that fit into the picture of motivations generally?
Well, clearly we can't sit at this desk and diagnose the motive. However, there is a lot of evidence that's emerging. Kash Patel, the FBI director, has been trying to clear some of that up by saying that, yes, this was an act of domestic terrorism, a hate crime targeting Catholics, which was, of course, the case during Mass shooting through the church door windows. However, I think a lot of people who study forms of extremism will suspect that this is far more complicated than a single motive. And some of that evidence comes from what we've seen scrawled on some of these assailants' firearms, slogans that, as you say, were homophobic, were many anti-Semitic slogans scrawled on the side of the firearms there, as you can see, but also tributes to mass shooters across a wide range of ideological motives, including Brenton Tarrant, the Christchurch shooter who killed worshippers inside a mosque in New Zealand a few years ago. I think what many people will say is that this appears to be in a box that is called mixed, unstable and unclear ideology. This is a sort of growing ideological trend which doesn't fit into one label. It is perhaps supercharged by the influence of the internet, sometimes by mental illness as well, and perhaps most striking to many people will be one of the slogans scrawled on the side of one of those firearms, which was "There is no message."